Hey, good morning, Sean. We are live. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Happy Wednesday morning. And we were just talking about how this month and year is flying by. So I'm so excited about our new endeavor here. And I thank you for sparking the idea. So we're here this morning, right, for CPT Build. So this is our new way that we will want to build your professional knowledge, professional education, webinar, mastermind. So many names to speak to the one thing, and that is business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, professionals in this ever changing marketplace. And it seems to me that just as the world is flying by, it seems like the marketplace and in business is just changing at such a rapid pace that this is our answer. This webinar starting today, every third Wednesday at 9 a.m., where we want to provide experts on a particular topic that we believe is so important for us to understand. We want to present it to the world. So this is the start of it. And today it is cybersecurity. So we are excited that you're here with us, and let's go ahead and get started. And I'd like to go ahead and give the floor to Sean Marcel, who is the managing partner for CitrusTel, and he's got the extraordinary team from Cora with us. And I'll give you the floor, Sean. So tell everyone what we're going to learn today. Thank you.
Sounds good, and thanks again for having me. And I'm looking forward to us putting this together ongoing. It's something that we're hoping to do monthly with different topics. So, uh, Sean Marcel, managing partner at CitrusTel, and Lisa, something you mentioned is everything's changing so fast. Even just the year seems to fly by. But one thing that is constant in the marketplace is the constant change or rate of change in technology. And that kind of is what brings us here today. Cybersecurity is ever evolving, ever changing, and we're going to get into that today. So, myself, I have 25 years experience, 15 of those in consulting, helping companies of all shapes and sizes, SMB all the way up to Fortune 100 companies, to help make better decisions about their technology purchasing. And with my partners, we actually have over 100 years experience in this, and 10 of mine come from sitting on the side of the customer in senior management and executive roles. And today, what we did is we brought on the experts in cybersecurity, really in general, but specifically for SMB. And I think what I've seen over the years is there's been a struggle for SMB to uh, small medium businesses to actually find something that really meets their needs, right, in a simple unified way. So Joe, Kate, welcome to the call. If you would jump on, and we'll have you introduce each other on your background, and then we'll jump right in.
Good
Hi, good
morning,
morning.
everyone.
Thank
Kate,
you,
I'll
Sean.
leave it to you first.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Sean. Thank you so much for including us in this conversation. We're excited. As you mentioned, I'm part of the Cora cybersecurity team here. Support our endeavors of partners in Florida region. I'm excited for us to have this burning topic around cybersecurity and small businesses, a little more demystified today. So I look forward to the discussion.
Yep. And
Great,
Joe
Joe.
Puzo here, one of the senior sales directors, but I've held roles in engineering, been Sean like you on the customer side from the MSP world, the internal IT. So really just excited to kind of, like you said, educate everyone on the changes and really what the future holds.
Yeah, it's something that we definitely see in the news. It seems like every day, right? You turn on the news and there's something out there happening, and we'll get into those to those details. So thanks again for doing this, and we look forward to diving in here. So on the agenda, we're going to talk about the current state of the cybersecurity industry, get into and recognize the evolution of the various threats, and then identify the ways that SMB can improve their cyber posture, and in doing so reduce their risk. And something that I just like to point out on this, and we'll get into it more as we go, is that nothing's bulletproof or 100% right, but it's something that you have to do. You have to have in place various things to protect yourself. And Kate, I think the other day when we were talking, you said it really uh, nicely, or in a way that makes sense for all of us, right? Is, you look at heart disease, and do you eat that cheeseburger every meal of the day, kind of thing, knowing that you could get a heart attack? No, you do preventative things, right, to make sure you're healthy and can enjoy life. And when it comes to cybersecurity, there's things that we just have to do. It's a necessary evil. It's something that's around us, and we'll dive into that as well. So, welcome to cybersecurity. What I love about this, Kate, when you put it together, was that I was at a conference, and one of the major companies in the area here in St. Pete, the super large company, they put up a slide very similar to this, and they were a very large enterprise. And it blew my mind because all those logos you see in those categories in the background, enterprises are trying to put together into a security posture and presence, and they have the ability to have lots of different people fielding the different areas, but it becomes very complex. So like you said, we're going to demystify it, and we're going to simple it down today, so that everybody can take and put in a level of protection. So with that said, it's time, kind of thing. Joe, when it comes to this, what are you seeing as the areas? And I think there's a bit of a misnomer here, but I'll let you talk about where it is on the threat.
No, it's funny because if you asked this question 6 years ago, everyone would have said, "See, the large enterprises. That's who people are going after." And the evolution, attackers are always getting smarter. You said it. Every day something new is coming out. And what they're seeing is that enterprises have these large stacks, these large teams. So who doesn't have that? Who can't afford that? The SMB space. The tools that are out, these enterprise grade tools, are built for teams to manage them. They're priced and structured in a way that SMBs just can't work them. So attackers know that. They can easily go see what prices are, get quotes. So they want to go after the low hanging fruit. And it's something that, again, isn't spoken about enough. It's not talked about. And there aren't too many tools that are available really focused on the SMB. So it's on the IT teams themselves to do their best to build that fortifying wall, so to speak.
And also,
Yeah,
if I may add here, Sean,
Mhm.
I think it's important. Obviously, enterprises are tasked with this, from very different factors, right? They also have the team, the bandwidth, and the budget. But I think it's also important to really hone in on the fact that small businesses, for some reason, things are just not valuable enough for cyber, attackers to actually go after their business. And I think the demystifying section here is, it's not necessarily what sort of intelligent value that they have or content or anything that they've developed within their operations, right? It's important to make sure that they know that it's really about putting them out of business simply for either a short period of time or for as long as it takes for then that hacking, team to gain some sort of value or monetary reward for it, right? So it's understanding that it's not necessarily if you have AutoCAD drawings for your developments that you're doing, or something that is within your accounts receivable, payable, right? It's more so shutting down operation and access to anything that you need during the daily operations to gain valuable monetary rewards behind it. So I think that's, if we can, if some of the viewers can walk away with that today as an intent enough to seek out some solution and protection of their environment virtually, I think that's going to be a successful discussion, at least I think, for the small and medium businesses.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and Joe, is that I know for me, as I mentioned, I've been in the role of being the decision maker or the gatekeeper and reporting up to the CIO in different size organizations for what we did or what we used. And the mindset 15, 20 years ago, and it continues to kind of creep in today, is that you kind of think, well, why are they going to attack me? I'm from an SMB posture, right? Like, do they even know I exist? Do I have anything of value? And Kate, you're absolutely right. It's not that they're trying to steal the data to use the data maliciously in those SMB space, as much as it is they're just trying to shut you down. And by shutting you down, now they're able to extort money from you, right? And so I know at Cerestel, we're a boutique shop, so we fit in that SMB space. And it's amazing to me the number of attacks, and we'll get into the types here later, so I won't jump ahead on that. But the number of attacks that we see at our level was really mind blowing as well. Once you put in the right tools to protect yourself, right?
And I think it also goes back to marketing and exposure, right? To Joe's point earlier, enterprises are out there. We hear about, large companies getting attacked and also having the finances and having the teams to recover, right? And then for somehow they, survive, then move forward. And we as consumers still do business with them, right? What's really devastating about the small and medium-sized businesses is that they go out of business and we locally maybe don't see the coffee shop anymore, or don't see the radio station, don't hear the radio station anymore, and we kind of move on. But that really truly affects, not just the business owners, but all of the people and individuals that now are lost their employment and lost the ability to continue their day-to-day stuff. So I think it's important to the point, I'm sure Joe here is going to talk a little bit more about the statistics of how many businesses just simply don't survive on a small and medium size.
Yeah, it's staggering, right? And Joe, walk us through here the numbers on the screen and identify, what the most common threats of attack are and how that's impacting the business's ability to stay in business. Because I think that number is overwhelming on what the impact is. And going back to the very start, it's not a matter of if, it's really when something could go wrong.
No, and I mean, the points you guys are bringing up are exactly the ones that we need everyone to understand. And with that, I want to actually start in the middle of the screen, the 60%. 60% of SMBs that are hit by a cyber attack shut down inside of 6 months. Now, to Kate's point, it's because they're trying to get their data back, financial impacts. But the other component of this is branding. With new regulations that are coming out, you sometimes, as any size business, need to report a breach. It's not back in the day where you could just hold it internally. You need to report it. That is public information. You could go to the attorney generals of certain states and see all of the breaches that happened, that affected people. So it's branding. It's that tarnishment that sometimes people just can't recover from. And again, it all falls to the IT and IT security. And if you don't know about that, you're going to be the one kind of sitting there. Now, some other statistics, you go up. 83% have no funds set aside to deal with these issues. All right. We don't have the bandwidth, both from a human perspective and the capital, to deal with these. You have sometimes where a service will go down with some, whether it's an application or servers, and you just can't bring it back up. Now, hard dollars, if we move down to the bottom right, $120,000 is the average SMBs are losing per cyber incident. When you look at SMBs, all right, some of them can't afford that. Some of them
that could be that can be all of their net income or more, right? After they've paid all the employees and themselves, that all their reserve, to your point, could be eaten up in seconds, kind of thing.
And something that we've been talking about, all that could come from a single email, a single user clicking and exposing information. We're not talking about a whole network down. No, we're talking about a single phishing email hitting a single user, them giving credentials, and that's all it takes. That's why things like education, both at this level and on the user end, is so important. It's so critical. And I think, Kate, you and I kind of see the education piece coming up so much now.
Oh, we lost your audio. You're on mute, Kate.
Sorry. And absolutely, I agree with that, Joe. Sean, what you mentioned earlier was also that sometimes businesses feel like they just nobody knows, and they're just not, they're not on the radar for attacks, right? It is important to say there's either an email, an attachment of some sort of access into an environment within any business that it's a target that lives in that environment for about 30 to 45 days prior to even an attack, right? And I think that to me is staggering to hear, that knowing that, there are, teams out there monitoring keystrokes, activity of a user, just traffic around their environment, and waiting for that appropriate moment to just kind of pounce and then capitalize, right? It just may be a matter of a second, maybe an email, maybe a link, maybe it may show up in very different shapes, but to just know that this, it's a strategy, and they're just kind of waiting for the right time. I think it's extremely, kind of alarming in my end to know that these businesses have to have some sort of protection that goes beyond just the phishing and beyond just the basic stuff that we know it was sufficient several years back, in order
Yeah.
to.
So when it comes to that, let's define phishing for anybody that's out there that maybe isn't up to term, because we're not talking about going catching snapper in the bay here in Tampa, right?
As
So
fun as that
Joe,
sounds,
can you? Yeah, be nice to be on a boat today. Maybe on the weekend.
Yeah.
That's actually where we all are, guys. This is
Yeah.
we're doing this from the yacht.
Yeah.
So Joe, why don't you elaborate on what phishing is, and then I'll give an example of somebody that we know that was vulnerable to it.
The best example that I always like to speak to is impersonations. Someone trying to impersonate, whether it be a brand, a company, or a person. I always make this corny joke. If you haven't received some type of email pretending to be your CEO or some C-level, you're not using email. But the reality is that all of the information that on a company is pretty much public knowledge. You could go on someone's website, see their C-suite. You could go on LinkedIn, see that, and you have their name now. So what attackers are doing is they're creating fake email addresses that look like these executives and sending emails to employees. Hi, this is your CEO. I need you to forward tax returns. I need you to forward W-2s. Can you go buy gift cards? So these are the things that attackers are trying to do to prey on the urgency of wanting to answer your CEO's email. Oh my God, my CEO is reaching out to me. I need to answer right away. Instead of kind of really looking at it to understand, okay, no, this email address looks weird.
Yeah,
Coro.
it's off by one character, right? It's instead of an O or something like that.
Exactly. I always say Coro. It's a 0 instead of a CORO. Like something as simple as that, where you look quick, you don't notice it.
Yeah, and same with the branding that you said that are coming in. I would like to think that we're advanced, myself and the partners for sure, when it comes to identifying, because we've been through the training, right? The human element of cybersecurity is arguably the most important part in conjunction with the tools to make it easier and effective. But you have to know as a user to be paying attention to every single email, because it will look like a real Microsoft email or you name it. I mean, literally, I've received a text message or an email, and how many of us are shopping online now that we're expecting the delivery from UPS, FedEx, whoever, right? Amazon. And next thing you know, I've placed an order and I'm getting an email or a text that says, "Oh, your shipment is delayed. Click here."
Mhm.
And it's like, well, no, I'm not going to click on that phishing link, email, text, whatever it is. Let me actually go into, my login for that particular company and then look at the tracking right from that. So little things like that can easily catch us because we're all multitasking. We're in a big hurry, right? And so it's important. And believe it or not, it is very vulnerable to the personal side, because we're using the same devices in a lot of cases that we use for personal as we do for business. And they get in and they can now be attacking you. And we know somebody personally who, just, wasn't being as prudent as they should be, clicked on a link and they had $40,000 moved out of their bank account within minutes. And it's extremely difficult to recover funds once they're gone. It's not like you can just press the stop button, because once it's executed through the banking system, it's gone. and you really got to take some measures to get it back. So um, the 50% on here is interesting too, right, Joe? That 50% and less than that in SMB don't have a cybersecurity plan in place.
Of course not. They don't have the resources to, and that kind of leads into the next slide.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. How do we make it so that the various components, and talk about the various components that are protected, and how you simplify this for SMB that don't have the funds to have an entire IT staff, but they do need some protection.
No, absolutely. And this is a slide we use in pretty much all of our webinars. Reason being is that we want to show the differences between where we were as simple as 3 years ago, the pre-COVID era where everyone was in offices. You had all your resources in the office. You had your file servers. Everything was there. Everything was accessible. You couldn't access it from outside. So from a IT and security perspective, there were limited ways that attackers could get in. You had your firewall, your wall, your moat, your fence around everything, and you knew they couldn't get in. So that was great. But in the move to this remote hybrid where we're all on a Zoom call now, that's not the case. The case is that you can access data from almost anywhere now. That opens up holes. That kind of puts needing to kind of watch that 360 view on your environment.
Yeah, so you're talking about now protecting in multiple applications in the cloud level.
Yep.
That are daily use applications, such as email, such as Dropbox,
Files,
Slack, files, things like that, right?
Salesforce.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Nope.
and it's no longer that you can just have everything sitting in a closet in your building, and you've
You got
protected
that
it
physical lock.
physically
Yep.
and with with a firewall, as you said, right?
Yeah,
Everything's
broken
now out
glass
in the
in case of
cloud.
an emergency. Yes,
Exactly.
I think those days are behind us. I mean, we mentioned earlier, just having, some phishing and malware, antivirus protection. It's a great building block and a great foundation, right, for businesses to start with. But it's absolutely, leaving a lot of vulnerability on the table still. And to this point, what the time has kind of pressured businesses into doing is acquiring these little tools that do one little thing within their cyber posture, within protecting their environment. And now today, 2023, approaching 2024, with compliance, with regulations, with insurance liabilities, they're even forced to bring additional tools to make all of this talk to each other, right? And then vendor fatigue, it's a real thing among teams within businesses, because they simply, one, they're not getting the full potential out of a provider in a solution, because there's just no time and bandwidth to actually do that. And then two, they're just stretched too thin in managing multiple tools that simply just are disjointed and don't talk to each other. So it's complex to say the least. But there's in our belief, from the core side of things, we believe there's a better way of not just procuring, vetting, and implementing a solution, but ongoingly managing it and growing with it.
Not only better, real quick, but necessary, because the old world model worked because you could have the staff to run all of these tools. But the fact of the matter is, today, the SMB space in general does not have those resources. They have to move to the new world model. They have to, in order to better protect themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this whole new world too. What I've noticed over the last 15 years is just more and more, as this has moved into an as a service world. And I like how the core platform is in this new world where it's a single pane of glass, and you have these core requirements being addressed in one thing. Is that there is economies of scale today. For the SMB, that they can take advantage, right? Even when you're just looking at applications that they're using, back in the day, an SMB probably didn't have a CRM system, right? Because it was just too expensive to buy that software and use it, right? Well, now you can get it very affordably. And I think that's a big misconception in the SMB space is that how am I going to protect all these different things and be able to afford it? And there is a way to do that now, and you can do it in a single environment to avoid the complexity. And you don't really have to be an IT expert to be able to take and remediate and have protection in place. It's available to you, but you don't actually have to have it. So getting into that, then, that we're into this new world of cloud and applications and many different cloud instances working together, and us using the same devices for work and at home. When you talk about the platform that protects it, what should be in that platform, and how does it also protect with the critical information like PCI credit cards? Because a lot of small businesses take credit cards. So talk a little bit about that too, if you would.
So I'll throw out the term end to end. Now that is a loose term and something that is thrown around, but it's the fact of the matter. You need to be able to understand at the device level, like you said, people are using you. Bring your own device. BYOD is so strong. You need to have something on the device, but then you also need to have something on the cloud and the email presence. So when I speak to end, that's really what I'm talking about. You need to be able to span the life cycle of your users and how they're working. You need to be able to have some type of antivirus on the endpoint, an EDR, next gen antivirus, something that's looking for these new persistent threats. To your point, also, Sean, you now need to understand compliance. You need to understand the type of data that's living on that device, because in certain compliances, that could be a violation. I'll say it here. We're being recorded and we're live. But if you haven't kind of saved a document to your desktop to email out, I'll call you a liar, because we all do it for the sake of just kind of needing to work fast and needing to just do something quick. But that's not the right way to do things. You need to be sending sensitive information encrypted. If you're sending banking information, you shouldn't be sending that over just regular email. If you're
credit card numbers, right? Social security numbers from an HR standpoint.
Yep. These are all gold mines to attackers, and they don't have to work hard to get it anymore. We need to make sure that they're not getting it. So that's really where you need to kind of start to build and evolve, because now you're reaching into email space. All right, you need to understand what's being sent and what's coming in so that you can better protect against those impersonations like we were speaking about before. You go a level above that. Now you're talking about data. All right, we talked about on the endpoint, but with companies that are using tools like Microsoft, like Google, you now have cloud storage. You now have OneDrive or Google Drive, where you could save documents, collaborate, share things out, so that you're boosting your efficiency, but you need to also do it securely. You need to make sure that if I share a document out with yourself and Kate, that document then isn't shared to other people outside of the three of us. And you need to make sure from a IT perspective or IT security that you have a handle on that. Too few SMBs even know how to have that handle on it.
Yeah, and I think to what you're saying there too, sorry, Kate, just real quick, is that you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And so I think it's really important that by having the right tool in place for the information technology, the security platform that we're talking about, it should be able to identify when something has happened, right? We're not talking about necessarily blocking that email correspondence, but we're talking about identifying, that an employee or somebody has sent information out in a manner that's not in compliance, so that you can do the educational and the training, and you can take steps to prevent that from going on further there. So, just having that awareness is huge, because a lot of times, to your point, saving stuff onto a desktop or whatever and emailing it out, maybe it's being emailed out from a personal account for some reason, because they're somewhere and they just feel it's easier for them to do it that way. So it's really important that the triggers are there and the alerting system is there, And
It's funny.
what I like is that you mentioned about the endpoint agent. It's running in the background, it's doing
Mhm.
stuff, but it's not uh, taxing the computer.
Yep.
You can still operate. You won't even feel it or notice it. But when you have a tool that looks and feels the same when you're navigating through it as a user that may not be super IT savvy, it makes it a lot easier to understand the flow of things and to know where to go. By all means, definitely people should get the additional resources that they might need. We're not saying that, but um, you know, and you can take baby steps towards it. So I just thought it was
Absolutely.
important to mention about the knowing that something is happening.
Hmm.
And right now, without a tool in place, you wouldn't know that that information is being passed inappropriately.
Absolutely. Having visibility in the environment is everything, right? Testing out the solutions is really what a first step for us as a provider and a company that's solving a lot of these issues in a small and medium business demographic is we're allowing them to kind of really get a feel for what's happening in their environment prior to even moving forward, right? And also to the approach here on the slide that we have, what a lot of businesses enjoy with our solution is the ability to have the multi-layer approach. If something slips through an email or something slips through a file, right, it may be it's going to be caught in another different areas in the platform, right? So everything lives there and communicates. Automation is behind it as well. So not just relying on us as admins, as humans of managing the solutions, but there's best practices already built in there that it's going to look for the behavior that is normal for Kate, normal for Joe, but abnormal for Sean, right? We know that if we constantly, let's say, log in and access certain things from a certain area, and all of a sudden we have several attempts of login from Europe, and Kate lives in Florida, then we know that there are certain predispositions that the platform can actually apply to protect and safeguard the environment immediately, right? So I think that's extremely important. And Sean, to your point about management, right? If nobody has to become an expert on these things, there's experts that can help, right? The managed service portion of this is also available. Partners like you, and then also the teams that we have on the core side of things can enable the small and medium businesses to either manage this on their own or utilize teams on our side that can fully manage this with a hands-off approach, right? So that way, nothing wakes you up in the middle of the night, and nothing stresses you from a cybersecurity perspective, knowing that there's teams behind managing your environment 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. And I think something else to point out when you're talking about that single pane of glass, that term's been thrown out around over the years, or that interface. I think a really good cybersecurity posture or solution at the end of the day allows the end user to be able to take action and not just rely on whatever expert to do it. And I say that for a couple reasons. One, when somebody external is just doing everything for you and managing and putting in the restrictions and stuff, they may restrict something that restricts you from doing business, and you don't want that. So you want a tool that allows you to do business, but identifies the threat. And then with the right training in place, and this is what I like about this platform, is that you can report it yourself as a user. You see it, and then the IT expert that you're using automatically sees that in a quarantine area, gets an alert, and is able to assist in remediating that potential threat. But the user is able to take action, and I think that for SMB that's critical, because they see something. It's like, no, this is definitely a shady email. They can block it, and then it blocks it at the cloud level for everybody. So I think the ITsec platform needs to do it, to your point, Joe, in a way that the end user can have valuable input, insight, and take action. But then it rises up to the cloud level, so that
Hmm.
if I've blocked a certain domain as a user because I just know that it's bad, somebody else in my organization isn't going to get that same threat. So you're blocking and tackling on a day to day in an effective way.
It was funny. I was on a call yesterday with a potential customer, and he trialed our platform. And honestly, what he said, he goes, cybersecurity now is you don't just have one haystack you have to find the needle in. You have a warehouse full of haystacks that you're looking for different size needles. You don't know what you're looking for sometimes. So to your point, to have this, and Kate's to yours earlier, to have this visibility and the different ways to get that visibility, that's what's important all in one place.
Absolutely. So just walk us through here then. We've mentioned a couple of these things. We mentioned endpoint. EDR is the latest abbreviation around that, right? And
Yep,
endpoint
newest one.
detection and response. So if anybody's out there and you haven't heard EDR before, it's endpoint detection and response. And that's, your laptops and desktops, et cetera, that you see here. So talk us through this around what's being reported out there as the type of attacks and where the attacks are most happening, and how you all in your platform can help address it.
Absolutely. One of the kind of aspects of Coro that we really enjoy is being a thought leader. And what we do is we go to different independent groups, IDG being one of them, to help us to understand where not only we need to go as a company to help protect the space that we want to be in, but also what we need to help educate people on. And IDG ran a report, put this together, and found these are the most common 4 areas: your cloud applications, your email, your endpoints. But really, I want to focus on data here in a second. But when we were talking, and Kate, you kind of nailed this. 10 years ago, you had antivirus on your endpoints, and maybe you had some type of email security solution. You thought you were good. And we've talked about through kind of the last 36 minutes that that's not the end anymore. Now you have your data and you're working collaboration within Microsoft and Office 365, Google, Salesforce, the CRM. But to kind of double down on it, the data. What data is there? And we've been talking about it. It's been a theme. SMBs don't think they have sensitive data. They don't think that they are important enough, but they are. An attacker will use small, medium businesses' data just like they would use a large enterprise's data to sell it, to hold it hostage. And again, these compliances that really no one knows about. The California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, is a great example. What a lot of people don't understand from an education perspective is that it doesn't mean that you need to reside in California, that you adhere to it. But if you're doing business with anyone, consumer business that lives in California, has lived in California, that could be a potential violation. And this level of education isn't out there because just as simple fact is people don't know they need to protect these areas.
Yeah, and it's expensive. It's
that
per.
goes
When you
without
talk
saying
about
these
these
days.
things, it's the cost of these fines and stuff are expensive, and it's a way that they're trying to get people to really pay attention to it. Now, the one thing that I've noticed in conversations with different leadership in the SMB space, a lot of times people think, well, I have a VPN, and so I really don't need anything because I'm protected. And VPNs are good. That I don't discourage the use of them, but you need more than a VPN. You need all these other things in order to truly protect yourself, because the VPN is just putting you in a tunnel to get to the application. If somebody emails you, even though you're connected on a VPN, and you email and you click on that link, you're still going to get infected just the same as you would if you weren't on the VPN.
And it's even worse because you're then letting that attacker into that tunnel.
Right, which they could be now have access to other things that they wouldn't have access to. So definitely use a VPN, but don't feel that because you have a VPN that you don't need these other tools in place, that you don't need cloud level security for the applications, email security, the endpoint itself, and making sure that you're protecting against that critical information that you can be associated with fines or at risk of compliance and be shut down as an organization as well.
Yeah, I think they all have a spot in their entire cybersecurity strategy, right? And that may sound like it's very complex and big, but it doesn't have to be. the VPN and the, goes, I like to see it when I got into this space, it was a great analogy, which I still use to this day, almost like the fence around a house, right? You've kind of securing the perimeter, but then internally you also have to have tools and safety measures in place, right? And that goes to the email, that goes to the users and devices, everything else that lives cohesively. And everything has to work together in order for all of the points of penetration or attack can be kind of blocked. Nothing is, again, 100%, safeguarding, right? However, we have to have these multiple layers that are not bringing complexity. It's just plugging vulnerability around an environment. So I think all of those have to work together at the same time.
And we're not going to dive into this on this call because we're staying more focused on the types of threats and how the landscape changed. But something that SMBs really need to have is they need to have a business continuity disaster recovery plan. And that means having a proper backup of the data and information so that if you do get attacked, you can know that you have a way to resume business in the right amount of time for your business. So I just wanted to throw that out before we moved on, is that, to your point, Kate, that this is one side of the coin, and then you have the other side of the coin where you got to make sure that your data is securely backed up and accessible in the event that somebody does get in, because it's alarmingly scary how easy it is for somebody to get into an environment. So with that said, we kind of hit everything that we wanted to through the discussion. We'd like to, Belt, in the interest of time too, open it up for any discussion or questions that might be out there. Before we do, just to let you know, if you're looking for a good networking group here in Tampa, Christian Professionals of Tampa is an excellent venue. It's the second Wednesday of every month. And Lisa can talk a little bit more about that as we go. And then if you want to get a hold of myself, or if you're looking to learn more about Coro, same thing, get a hold of me, or you can even click this QR and set up a time on my calendar, and we can go through and we can actually get you a free trial as well, without a credit card. So it's not one of those things that you're going to be charged for after the trial's out and forget until you get a notification that you're 3 months into it. So Lisa, throw it back to you so that we can open up for questions.
Well, gosh, yes. And Kate and Joe, thank you so much for the information. As you dug in, I mean, I have that, some great notes. You said it's a warehouse full of haystacks, such an impactful statement. And what you said about that, yes, you definitely have to have the DR plan, right? That's something. And I was in tech years ago. We talk disaster recovery. What's our plan B? What's our fallback? But definitely so important today. And just that idea that it is a new world. What is your new world model as an SMB? So just appreciate the conversation. I knew you guys are going to be rock stars in supplying your expertise here. So let me look. I know we've got a couple people. We opened up to Q&A, so let me check the comments. And I know we have George has been watching, and so if you have any specific questions, let me take a look here. I'm not the greatest producer, but I try my best here. You do say that, thank you for the calendar link, Sean, but you do say, I think it's, the first step is to have the conversation and to specifically bring as the business owner, right, to Sean, hey, Sean, here's my current environment. Here's what I know. Here's what I don't know. How can I just take the first step? And it's a build. So it's a build. I mean, how can you encourage someone that says, this seems like I need to be an IT expert to even have the conversation? How would you answer that?
Yeah, they definitely don't need to be an expert. And the Sears Tell business model is you get that 100 years of experience from me and my team at no charge. Because just like the insurance industry, when it comes to getting an insurance agent to give you the advice and support and get you the right plan from the provider, and they're paid by the provider. Same thing in our industry, and it's standardized over the last 30 years. So we're there to just help you get the best and the right solution for your application. And then there's professionals that we work with, like Coral, that their team can get on and do an analysis and support it. So don't feel that you have to go out and learn all this stuff. You can lean on us, and we'll help you with that. Same thing with the engineering, the support at Coral and others, is that these resources are available to you. And don't think because you're an SMB that you can't have top tier, state of the art technology working for you. The economies of scale do exist. And I can definitely assure you that it's affordable for SMB to take action and help secure themselves and prevent that risk for them.
That's excellent. And I know that at Cirrus, I mean, you've worked with so many clients, like you said, of the 100 years, and now you're 10 years here. I mean, you know, we only get better with each customer engagement, right? We only get better at seeing the success and what really works for a particular client in a certain industry, right? And what is their watch points, so to speak. So I appreciate that. And what I know from Cora, and definitely now after this webinar, what I've learned and what we're going to share. So we will rebroadcast this for those of you that weren't able to join the live. And very encouraged about the CPT build. And I hope that everyone has a chance to watch this segment. So I thank you.
Great.
Sean, did you have any last words? And I think Joe
I'd
and
just
Kate?
like to say thank you to Joe and Kate for doing this and sponsoring it, bringing a really good educational component. I mean, we're trying to keep this in a certain amount of time. We could have went on for days, quite honestly, when you start getting into the weeds. So thanks for keeping it short and sweet and high level. And Lisa, thanks for having us on here hosting, and we look forward to continuing to do these on a monthly basis, the third Wednesday of every month.
Third Wednesday. All right. Happy Wednesday. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great
All
show.
right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.